of our lifetime. But what makes a moment important isn't just the outcome, it's what the outcome reveals. Unclassified begins right now. Hello, everyone. Listen, I was going to leave my jacket on tonight, but I've heard so many people, that's your favorite thing, when I pull the jacket off. Why do I do that? Well, it's like when we come over to somebody's house, they said, let me take your coat. So we're having a conversation tonight. Tonight, we're going to continue the conversation. No spin, no slogans, no sacred cows, because in moments like this, America doesn't need more noise. We have a lot of that. It needs discernment. We're living in a time when convictions are costly, when standing firm can mean standing alone, and when the pressure to compromise comes dressed as practicality. Tonight, we're going to talk to two men who've been no strangers to pressure, two men that understand what it means to stand in the arena of ideas, not from the cheap seats, but on the field. A little later, we'll talk with Bob Good, former congressman, fiscal conservative, and a voice that has consistently challenged the status quo from within his own party. But first, I want to welcome one of our Victory News contributors. He's a combat veteran, former congressman, unapologetic constitutionalist, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Sir, welcome to Unclassified.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, and congratulations, Greg, on the start of your great new show.
Well, thank you, sir. Now, the conflict of Iran is where I want to start with you with. It continues to escalate, with the U.S. and allied forces hitting thousands of targets, degrading Iran's air defenses, naval capabilities, and missile systems. I want you to listen to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Here it is.
Starting last night and to be completed in a few days, in under a week, the two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it.
All right. I love those words, Colonel. Even this, we sank an Iranian warship. Are you ready? With a torpedo. We sunk your battleship, something we haven't seen, I think, since World War II. So how would you assess the current military posture?
Well, I tell you, you are 4.5 days into this. It's absolutely incredible what has happened. And the Secretary of War was correct. We're going to have air dominance, not superiority, not supremacy, air dominance. The only thing that they'll see flying, blinking lights in the sky, are American and Israeli jets. And if they continue to upset some of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, you may see some of the other countries, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, whomever, lend some of their air forces as well as they continue to shoot ballistic missiles onto their territory. So this has been a phenomenal accomplishment. And to those detractors out there that are saying that this was something that's just thrown together in the last couple of days, no, you don't develop these type of strike packages. You don't have this type of airspace command and control, which you're very familiar with, Greg, having served in the Air Force overnight. So this is very well planned, and you're not going to be able to track their leadership and decapitate it like we have seen unless you have some type of intelligence gathering that is on the ground and systems as well.
So now, as Secretary Hegseth said, as you alluded to there a moment ago, and in that clip, the U.S. is not acting alone. Israel has been a major partner in this effort. From your background in command and coalition thinking, what are the advantages and risk of this paired military our strategy pairing together?
Well, the risk or that, the command and control systems. I mean, we have lost 3 F-15s, not to enemy fire, but we lost 3 F-15s for whatever reason, the wrong type of querying or misidentification of those aircraft by Kuwait, and they were shot down. Thankfully, the pilots and their Wizzos are okay. But that is a huge thing when you start talking about, again, the airspace command and control that you're talking about. 2 different countries with different different type of aerial platforms. And then on top of that, you throw in the Tomahawk cruise missiles. And then on top of that, you throw in the aircraft that's flying in from the United States of America, like these B-2 bombers, as well as the B-52s. So that air tasking order, as we call it, is very intricate, has to be very precise, and that command and control is critical when you're talking about having combined operations as well as joint operations between naval and air forces.
Okay, to get all the nuclear elements out of the country and make sure they do not have that, will it require boots on the ground?
You know, I think that you may have to have some direct action if I want to use the right Special Operations Forces terminology. There may be some necessities for direct actions against some of those facilities, as well as maybe some of these drone launch sites that may be a little bit more elusive to our aerial attack platforms. So I would not rule that out without a doubt, direct actions against these very specific target sets. But to have a massive force, look, you know, it was 30 some odd years ago, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. We don't see any massive buildup of ground forces waiting to go into Iran. What we're trying to do is eliminate that capability and capacity, and we have done a very effective job with our aerial forces and also our land attack missiles, as well as, I mean, who would have ever thought we see a torpedo still being used against a ship in the 21st century?
I think that's great. Now, reports indicate key Iranian military leaders and elements of the regime's war machine have been struck during recent operations. Here's Senator John Fetterman talking about the death of the Ayatollah.
And it's more just now because of that, what this happens. You don't have to agree on everything, but it's like, yes, I'm the only Democrat because I'm not afraid of my base to just say, you know what, this was overall a good thing. You don't have to agree on everything. So I'm going to be honest. So, like, why can't you just acknowledge that one of the most evil people on the face of the earth was erased? That's a good thing.
Fetterman continues to surprise me every single day. Your thoughts, Colonel?
Yeah, I mean, what a breath of fresh air. I mean, he was someone that we were concerned about his mental capability, and it seems that that stroke made him one of the clearest thinking Democrats that are there. And he brings up a great point because you look at some of the articles in the New York Times and the Washington Post where they were, you know, praising this Ayatollah, talking about his hair and his beard and how he loved Persian poetry and things of this nature, just the same as they did with Qasem Soleimani, the very vicious commander of the Quds Force. They tried to lionize him as well, not realizing that this was a man responsible for those explosive force penetrators that has killed and maimed thousands of our men and women in uniform. So for whatever reason, the left will sit around and say, yes, we need to do something about Iran, but no, we don't want anybody to really do anything. But where are the criticisms of Barack Obama when he sent pallets of cash in a plane, unmarked plane in the middle of the night, or Joe Biden, who lifted sanctions against them and sought to once again reward them with the Iranian nuclear agreement? So this is all hypocrisy. To include this whole thing is about the War Powers Resolution. I was in Congress when the whole Libya thing went down with Barack Obama, 7 months, and Nancy Pelosi said, don't need a War Powers Resolution for what President Obama is doing. But now all of a sudden, after 4 days, you need to have that to constrain President Trump.
All right, let's turn to domestic concerns here. Last night's primaries began in key states like Texas, produced some surprising results and signaled strong engagement from voters. One of the big surprises on the Democrat side of the aisle was the victory of James Tarrico over Jasmine Crockett. Here's a quick clip of the guy who the left thinks is going to flip your state of Texas blue. Here it is.
Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do.
Our trans community needs abortion care too. That's going to be who's running on the Democrat side, Colonel.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a different face. I mean, still the same policies. He's the same person with his new woke Christianity that says the Bible justifies abortion, and that means all the way up until the time of birth. So I think that when James Talarico gets out there, and he is no longer in the bubble, he is no longer just going to be out there talking to his that Democrat, that Marxist leftist base. He has to talk to all Texans, and Texans are going to refute this. I'd love to see him go down to the border where Donald Trump flipped 13 of 15 border counties 2 years ago and talk about open borders and talk about, allowing the Mexican drug cartels once again to have free reign and operational control. I love to see him talk about how he wants to undermine our energy and natural gas situation here in Texas, where we're producing, consuming, and exporting those resources. So he is still a leftist at heart, and I think that Texas will reject him. I just think that they thought that he would be a better face to put up, a better person to put up instead of a Jasmine Crockett, but that's not going to be successful.
Okay, at one point last night, Jasmine Crockett said this.
We should all be standing together, Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell. But unfortunately, this was always the plan. And so I am grateful for this court order. And as Congressman Allred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it.
Okay, wait a minute. That's a Democratic primary. Did she say that the Democrats cheated?
Yeah, I think it's very funny because, I'm the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party, and our county executive committee voted to have non-joint precinct-based elections on election day. That's the only time that we can do anything. We can control our own primary is on election day. It's been widely known. We have done everything to train and educate Republican voters about that. I've done countless amounts of interviews, but yet for some reason they want to blame Republicans because their failure within their own Democrat primary. And oh, by the way, that court order that the Democrats went behind the back of the Dallas County Elections Department to secure was overturned by the Texas Supreme Court. And all of those votes that were, cast after that 7 p.m. deadline, they were ordered to be separated. So again, this was their failure. This was their fault. This was their shortcoming. And of course, they're going to try to project that against Republicans. But Dallas County is a blue county, so the Democrats control it. I'm
up against a break here. I got to ask you this. This just came down from Donald J. Trump on his truth details here. He says he's talking about the two Republicans, Paxton and Cornyn, and whoever he endorses, he wants the other one to drop out for the sake of the party in the election. Your thoughts real quick on that?
I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, maybe he should have done that prior to us getting to the point of a runoff, but he can't come in and interject himself and now just think that one camp is just going to shut down, because both of them had over 40% of support.
Okay, be sure to check out the Colonel's perspective at townhall.com or visit alanwest.substack.com or on X at Alan West. Colonel, great to have you with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Greg. And again, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Coming up after the break, we're opening up the comment section again. And this time it's all about you reacting to our debut episodes. Yes, we saw the encouragement. Yes, we saw the questions. And yes, we saw your comments, too. We'll share a few of the favorites. And then former Congressman Bob Good joins us to jump into the conversation. Don't go anywhere. Unclassified continues right after this.
In recent years, America has seen some of the darkest, most troubling days in living memory. Days in which it seemed our extraordinary nation was under siege and crumbling from within. And throughout those years, we saw our nation's once trustworthy media institutions abandon objectivity. And in the words of Romans chapter 1, verse 25, exchange the truth for lies, becoming propaganda outlets for those who despise our nation and its traditions. Amid that darkness, and at great cost, Victory News emerged to champion truth and bring you news you could trust, all in the spirit of faith. In recent months, some important battles have been won, but the war for our nation's future is far from over. The battle to restore and rebuild America for our children and grandchildren still rages. Powerful, well-funded sources still pour out misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies. That's why Victory News is as important now as ever. We thank you for watching. But today, Victory News invites you to do more than just watch. We invite you to become a vital member of our team. To find out how, please go online to govictory.com/news and see how you can be a part of keeping Victory News delivering both truth and faith to you and your neighbors. Victory News. Facts, faith, freedom.
All right, welcome back to Unclassified with Greg Stevens. Here's the comments. You have been sending in comments on the first free shows. Let's get right to it. You ready? Pat says this, not disappointed in your program. Great job. Nice set, too. I agree. Diana Groves is the one that made this. Diana's the best. Next, Robert. Robert says, congratulations on the new show, Greg. You look like you're in the zone. It's going to be good. You and your guests will fill the integrity void. Well, thank you, Robert. It's very kind. Leslie says, love the challenge to Tucker Carlson. It's definitely a spiritual battle. I will pray that the voice of reason and truth prevails. Yeah, I still want to do that. Let's talk about truth. And Rhonda says this, Unclassified. It's like a talk show, but they have something actually worth listening to. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Rhonda. Last night, we marked the first America Stands broadcast of the 2026 midterm season on the Victory Channel. For 1 full hour, we brought you the live primary results, real-time analysis, and a biblical worldview perspective on what it means for the direction of the country. If you missed it or just want to see how the night unfolded, here's a quick recap of our inaugural 2026 midterm coverage.
Today marks the beginning of the 2026 midterm primary election season. Casting ballots in this coming general election in November is crucial to see which party controls the House and the Senate.
We don't vote out of fear or anger, and certainly not based upon someone's looks or personality. You and I vote from conviction. We're stewards of our homes and our churches, and we're stewards of our citizenship. And we'll be covering all through the election season. Joining us now is the former congressman for Virginia's 5th District, Representative Bob Good. Sir, welcome to Unclassified.
Great to be with you, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, from major upsets in the Texas Republican primaries to runoff scenarios and Democrats securing key nominations, do you see any trends emerging that matter for the health of this republic moving forward? Can we assess anything about this election from last night?
Well, I don't know if last night was enough to tell us anything in particular based on the results last night. We've got, Texas was sort of prominent. You had Texas, you had North Carolina, you had Arkansas. I will just point to North Carolina for a moment. Democrats think that's one of their Senate pickup opportunities with the retiring Tom Tillis, and they've got the former governor Roy Cooper running, so that's a strong candidate for the Democrats. And Republicans are running a party operative, Michael Whatley. That's often party operatives sometimes aren't as popular with the base voters, so I think it's going to be a challenging race for Republicans in North Carolina. But Texas was the main focus. It is my hope that President Trump will not endorse the very liberal John Cornyn. The people of Texas and the people of this country have suffered from Republicans like him for some time now. And Ken Paxton is certainly not a perfect candidate. I would have voted for Wesley Hunt. He was a conservative House member. But I hope the president doesn't jump in and endorse John Cornyn in that race. I hope that he also doesn't endorse in the AG race unless he endorses Chip Roy. You talk a lot about courage in politics and principle in politics and taking a stand, even if it's costly. Chip Roy has demonstrated he's willing to do that as a leader of the House Freedom Caucus, as a true courageous conservative warrior, a real fighter. And he's going to be in a runoff with Mays Middleton, who's the establishment choice there in Texas. But you had some good results on the, you mentioned sort of upsets. Steve Toth is a conservative endorsed by the Freedom Caucus who defeated the liberal Dan Crenshaw. Glad to be rid of him. And then Brandon Herrera got the majority or the most votes, I should say, and is in a runoff against perhaps the most liberal Republican in the House, Tony Gonzalez. It's hard to imagine that was close. It was close. Why would anybody vote for Tony Gonzalez even before the horrific scandal arose or was revealed over the last couple of months? But hopefully Brandon Herrera, who I endorsed in 24 and certainly has my support again in 26. So what we need, to your point, you talk about this a lot, Greg, is true, courageous conservatives who are willing to do what they think is right, put principle ahead of party or personality, put Constitution and country ahead of re-election. Don't just think about the next election, but think about the next generation. We need more people in office who will do that.
Let me ask you what I asked Colonel West. The president sent out this tweet or this post today saying he would endorse one of the two that's running for Senate in Texas, and he wants the other one to drop out. You agree with that?
I don't. I mean, it's hard to find an example where President Trump has endorsed the right candidate, the conservative candidate, the grassroots, courageous conservative. He tends to endorse the party establishment. He tends to listen to party leadership and congressional leadership and endorse what's considered the safe candidates. You know, we're told all the time we can't have real conservatives because then we risk losing to Democrats. And instead we end up with Republicans who vote like Democrats. The problem in Washington is that half the Republicans are really Democrats and none of the Democrats are really Republicans. And so many Republicans betray us, but they use these scare tactics and say, oh, this is the most important election ever, and we can't risk losing to a Democrat. We just got to have a Republican. Any Republican is better than a Democrat, and Republicans don't do what they say they will do. Democrats are willing to lose elections in order to advance the radical agenda. Republicans seem to be just mostly primarily focused on retaining power just for the sake of having power. John Cornyn is one of those people. So I fear the president may endorse him. Ken Paxton is certainly more conservative. He's more of a fighter. He's a stronger Republican than John Cornyn.
Let me ask you about this. There was a big win in the Supreme Court yesterday. I'll play it for you. Here it is.
Out of the nation's capital today, where the Supreme Court has ruled on California policy regarding the notification of parents surrounding their child's gender identity. Today's ruling overturns a state law which prevented schools from notifying parents if students change their pronouns or gender expression at school. This comes after some religious parents and educators challenged California school policies aimed at preventing schools from outing students to their families. California argued students have the right to privacy over their gender expression, especially if they fear rejection from their families.
So what should voters, especially Christians, be watching for as the midterm primaries give way to the general election? Is it going to be social issues and trans issues, or will it be physical conservative? What will it be?
I think it'll be whether or not the Republicans deliver with the full control of government they have. Are they willing to be bold and courageous and to enact conservative policy? I hope they'll do a second reconciliation bill that deals with the debt and the spending. That was sadly left out of the reconciliation bill from last year. Republicans need to deliver. They need to acknowledge there's more work to do on the economy, that, you know, we continue to battle inflation. The best way to battle inflation is to cut spending, to shrink government, in addition, and to recognize that people are hurting and they're suffering and everything's not fixed yet. But President Trump's policies worked in his first term. I think they'll work in his second term, especially if he and Republicans are willing to address the debt and, frankly, stop funding the Biden COVID budget that's still in place and stop funding some of the things that Republicans run against.
Okay, let me ask you, let's pivot quickly to the conflict that's going on between the United States, Israel, and Iran, and that's escalating dramatically, including strikes and ongoing retaliation across the region. Now, recent reports show that Iran's Revolutionary Guards are taking stronger wartime leadership roles in that country. So what are the strategic implications and stability for our Middle East and America's interests? And what should we be looking for as a way of knowing this is over, or should we even put a date on this?
I think we need to focus on our national safety and security. We need to focus on eliminating the threat to the United States. I supported what we did last summer when we attacked their nuclear capability. There's been a little bit of mixed messaging. Did we actually destroy it, as the president has claimed, or do we need to destroy it now? Certainly, it'll be further decimated, further destroyed, and there'll be further set back. But however, I think we need to resist the urge for regime change. I don't think there's the foundation to build upon there. Respect for the rule of law, respect for the value of life, the Judeo-Christian principles upon which we were founded. I mean, we need to hope and pray that the Iranian people will rise up and take back their government, and it won't be replaced with something similar to what's been eliminated, at least for the moment, in Iran.
I absolutely agree with you. We can't be about nation building with massive repression of dissidents inside of Iran and longstanding suffering by the people. How should our viewers balance the concern for human rights and religious freedom and the pursuit of peace and this policy of this nation?
Yeah, to your point, I don't think that you can have regime change without boots on the ground or a sustained presence by the United States. And Iran suffers because they're not an armed population like what we have here. So there's the difficulty for the people to rise up. However, could you imagine getting invited to a security meeting to choose the next leader in Iran? Why would you show up for that if you're one of those assembly of experts? They keep taking off the next level of leadership. Hopefully they will do great damage to the existing structure there and a true grassroots from the people will arise in setting up a new leadership in Iran. And I think that's how we should pray as Christians here in the United States.
So I want to ask you about the primaries again, but let me go first to your home state of Virginia. Your current governor was billed as a moderate or centrist, and it seems like everything she's done is not that. What do we take from that?
Shame on anyone who believes that there's any moderates left in the Democrat Party. We talked about it earlier, that you've got battles in the Republican Party between moderates and conservatives. Moderates are long gone from the Democrat Party. Abigail Spanberger's voting record matched AOC's during her 6 years in Congress. There's nothing moderate about her except her rhetoric and her speeches when she's running for office. So she is proving that to be true. She's trying to turn Virginia into California. I think there's already some buyer's remorse setting in Virginia, but it's a lesson, a painful lesson to be learned. Apparently, we didn't suffer enough under Joe Biden and the previous Democrat governor, Ralph Northam, and Virginia signed up for more under Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, I'm looking at California and the governor's race there and who's going to potentially come out to run for president. And there's all these names being thrown around. As we digest what we've seen in the primaries and overseas, what's the biggest takeaways that you want the viewers tonight to walk away with, especially in terms of how we engage this election cycle? What's at stake in these midterms?
Well, we get the government that we deserve. The government reflects us. We like to blame elected officials and those who represent us, and rightfully so. However, we're the ones who put them in office or keep them in office, and we ought to be primarying Republicans who let us down. We ought to be fighting in the swing districts and the swing states to try to elect, obviously, more Republicans. The Democrat Party is opposed to everything that we believe in, everything that we stand for, is trying to destroy this country, to transform it into something unrecognizable. But we also need to hold Republicans accountable to do what they say they will do, and not to let them take our vote for granted that we'll vote for anyone just because they have an R after their name.
Okay, Ohio, Indiana, Mississippi, they're coming up on the primary schedule right now. What can our viewers do that live in those states before they vote?
Well, those are good Republican states where we tend to do well, but hopefully we'll pick up some states with some of the pick up some seats in the Congress with some of the redistricting that's going on in those states.
All right. Be sure to keep up with the congressman at goodforamerica.org. Goodforamerica.org. Sir, thanks for being with us today on Unclassified, and you are welcome here anytime. We like people that speak truth.
Thank you, Greg. Great to be with you.
All right. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and the message, I think, is clear. Our nation's strength lies in our faith and our constitutional foundation. Both of them work together. You have to have faith in the Constitution. You have to have faith in God. You have to have faith that the framers of this country, although not perfect, they had a dream that all men would be created equal. They had a dream that this nation would be a shining city of light on a hill. They even said, give us your tired, your poor, but there's a way to do those things. And we have to have faith in the system. If you can't have faith in the leaders and the people, have faith in what their vision was. So take the insights from this episode of Unclassified, and I want you to take it to heart. I want you to stand firm in your convictions. Now more than ever, we've got to do that. We've got to find people that are willing to put their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the altar, just like our founding fathers did. I truly believe it's that type of decision that we're having to make. We've seen great strides, but the battle is not over. And we have to be active. We have to be active in reclaiming our nation's heritage. Man, go be a poll worker somewhere and be part of the process. Pray over people. They don't even know you have to pray over them. You could just be there and pray silently over the people that are voting. We've got to reclaim our nation's heritage. Remember that freedom is not merely a political concept. It's a gift, and that gift has to be guarded. So keep your faith and keep fighting, and never, ever, ever back down from the truth. The truth is what sets you free. Listen, the truth is a person. He said so. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father by me. Now, listen, I mentioned the comments. We read through those pretty quickly because I wanted our guests to talk to you tonight. So go in right now if you're on social media, and right below, do the comments. Let us know what's happening where you are, what you think of Unclassified, how we could do things better. We really do read them, myself and the producers. I personally read them. Please do it on the comments. Stand for the truth. I'm Greg Stevens, and this is Unclassified. Good night.